This lecture is going to be discussing fun activities. Most people, when it comes to youth work or a youth ministry, being a youth pastor, this is probably the primary thing that they think of as doing fun activities. I'm actually only going to do one lecture on it. One of the other guys may end up doing a lecture on fun activities or different types. But the reason we only do one is because we mentioned this in the philosophy of youth ministry and some of the qualifications, that the qualifications in the philosophy of doing youth ministry and having a youth group is not just the fun activities. If you're a good youth pastor, you're going to come up with youth activities, but I think it's helpful to get some ideas, and so we're going to go through some of those and try to help you out. The first thing that we're going to look at is the purpose of fun activities. What is the purpose of fun activities? Now, you could probably list a bunch of things, but we're going to go through and give you a few ideas of some purposes. First of all, obviously, it's fun. The fun activity is the name of it. It's fun. It's to have a good time. It's to get a group of people together and to have some joy, to have some happiness. And there's nothing wrong with that. Biblically, you see that over and over. You read in the Bible that there is joy and there's happiness. It's not supposed to be that that as a teenager you're supposed to be mopey and you got to be sour and you got to be depressed. No, there can be fun. And so there is the idea of coming together and having a good time of fellowship, but fun. So we have fun. Then the second purpose is spending time. Now, this is not necessarily the teenagers, but as a youth pastor, and then the people that you put in charge of helping you with the young people. And so it may be young couples in the church, it may be couples in the church, it may be, in our situation, sometimes we have a couple of college students or kids that have grown up in the youth group and now they're older, they're in their young 20s, and they're helping us out. It's for those people to spend some time with the young people. And spending time is very important. You will not be able to help these young people in counseling. You will not be able to help their parents in seeing some weaknesses or seeing some strengths, seeing some areas that can be a help in their home. You will not be able to see any of those things if you do not spend time with them. So why do we have fun activities? We have it for fun. We have it for spending time. And this relates to maybe the fun and spending time, but it also helps develop social graces with the young people. It helps them in relating with each other. Now, there's a lot of debate out there in Christian circles with dating, courtship, betrothalship, all that. And this lecture on fun activities is not to discuss all the differences there between betrothal, courtship, or dating. But the sad thing is that many folks have seen what the world does in regards to their young people and dating, and it is not good. And so what their solution is to recluse, and their young people almost never get out of their cave. They're never allowed outside of their cage almost. And so when those young people finally hit the environment, maybe it's at 18, 19, 20 years old, and they finally get a job out in the world, they do not have any social graces. They're socially inept in talking to people and relating to another coworker. They're also very inept and have no social skills in talking to someone of the opposite gender. And so a fun activity helps you understand how to relate with each other. Now, there's two different ways. There's relating to someone of the opposite gender, but it's also relating to somebody that is one of your peers of the same gender. So let's say it's a boy. A teen boy should be able to learn how to relate to another teen boy. And they need to learn social graces, social skills, and that some of that is learning how to joke and have fun with each other, but it's also the give and take. It's learning how to be able to take a joke. There are some people, they can't take a joke. They can't laugh at themselves when maybe a prank is pulled. They sit there and pout. They maybe stomp their feet, or everything has to go their way, or they're mad during a game. Those social skills can be developed in relating with peers. Some people may disagree with this, but I believe, and my young people in my home have gone through the youth group, and some of them are still going through the youth group. And I am glad for a youth group and a youth pastor that has some fun activities so that my boys, my girls, my teen boys, teen girls learn how to relate with each other, and that's within the peers as far as the same gender. But then they also learn to be comfortable talking to somebody of the opposite gender. At some point, they're going to be interested in somebody of the opposite gender. My boys are going to be interested in girls. The girls are going to be interested in boys. At some point, they are. And you need an environment, and the church can provide that, where you have standards, you have discipline, and they're able to learn how to talk one with another without being, if it's a boy, without being a jerk to a girl, being polite, learning how to be a gentleman. We've lost that in this day and age. We've lost the day and age of boys treating a young lady right, and maybe it's opening a door or pulling a chair out for a young lady, or it's carrying something for them, noticing some of these things and being a gentleman. And that isn't something that is a come on to a girl. It's just, that's how you treat a boy, that's how you treat a young lady. And so what are some of the purposes of fun activities? Well, we have fun, spending time, learning how to relate with each other, social graces, developing some of those. And then lastly, one of the main purposes of a fun activity as a youth pastor is preaching. We do not have a fun activity without preaching here in our church. Our youth pastor knows that it is a time where they're coming together, and yes, it's going to be a good time, and it does kind of relax the young people. It gives them some fun, some interactions there, and in some ways it may break down some barriers a little bit. Some of that coldness, that stiffness that is there will come down, and the youth pastor comes in and he preaches hard. When I was a youth pastor, there was something special about preaching in a youth activity. And our youth pastor, I expect him to preach and preach hard, and he does. And there is a very close relationship when you're running that fun activity and you get done and you're just about ready to eat, and let's have a challenge from God's Word, and you teach them strongly and preach. Sometimes it's teaching, but a lot of times it's hard preaching on friends, or it's on God's will, or it's on surrender, it's on obedience, on authority. There's a lot of different things, and that's one of the lectures that we'll be doing is, what are some things that you should preach on? And there's a whole list of things that I think that over the course of 6 years, a young person that's in the youth group, they should hear preaching on. But preaching is very important. So the first thing that we covered in the idea of fun activities is the purpose. We have fun, we have spending time with the young people, developing a relationship. The young people themselves are learning how to relate with each other, developing social graces, and it gives the youth pastor an opportunity to preach to the young people. So then we come, and this will be then the remainder of the lecture. We are going to look at then types of activities. And in our resource folder, we have some types of activities there listed, some samples, so that you can look at these things. You can copy them, pull them down, do them yourself, adapt them. But we're going to talk about different types, and this should then help you in understanding and giving you a variety of types of activities. So what are some different types of activities? First type is outdoor activities. And by outdoor, we're talking about a outdoor activity, maybe just outside on your facilities, to a 2-day activity, maybe an overnight that you have a camping trip, or a 1-week trip, maybe a winter camping trip over Christmas. And so here are different outdoor activities. So let's give you a list of some things that you can do. One, as far as an outdoor activity, is camping. There are lots of different ways to go camping. As far as our youth group, and when I was youth pastor, we did overnight camping trips where maybe it was just the guys, and the guys, we would go camping out just for a night. Maybe it was a Sunday night to a Monday, or maybe on a Tuesday night to a Wednesday, and some day of the week, and we'd meet later because a lot of guys are working. And so you'd come together a little bit later, and it's just time. You're putting up your tents, having a bonfire, cooking out a little bit, and then in the morning having breakfast, and then you're done. But it's spending time together. So camping. Then you also can have camping trips. We did a camping trip where it was a 5-day camping trip. And so we were we're in Indiana, so we went up into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we spent 4 nights camping out. So we'd have to drive up there, set up our campsites, and then spend Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night camping out. Camping. And camping is a much slower pace because it takes time to do things. You have to then think through a lot of things, and so the detail it's a good exercise for a youth pastor to learn how to remember different things. So camping is one outdoor activity. The second type of outdoor activity is water activities. And water activities, you have a couple of different types. You have canoe trips. We every once in a while take canoe trips. You need to be planning that out. It can be expensive to take canoe trips. Finding a place that will outfit you. Sometimes if you're a smaller youth group, you may talk to people in your church, or you maybe yourself and maybe a few other guys invest in kayaks and canoes that you can buy off eBay, or maybe a local sporting goods store, or off of Craigslist, different things like that. You can get some of those things, and maybe then if it's a smaller youth group, you only need 3 or 4 canoes, a couple kayaks, and you got it together. It would save you a lot of time, and there's a lot of free ports, as in docks that it's public usage. And so you just have to get people to help you transport. So that's one way to do canoe trips, or if you're a larger group, you'd have to hire a service. But canoe trips are fun. Another type of water activity is an outdoor water activity on your property. We do a couple of them. We had named them over the years Doomsday, because all the teenagers have to wear black, and it's just we call it a Doomsday activity. And so it's a combination of swimming, because we have a pool on our property. So it's swimming, and then water games. And there's all kinds of different water games. Sometimes we made huge slip and slides with tarps and different things like that. So you do slip and slides, then swimming. Then we do also water balloons, tons of water balloons. Maybe you would have a war where all the teenagers can bring in water equipment, either super soakers or other different things. So there's a doomsday type activity. The other thing that we have done is even tug of wars with water, as in we would soak the ground and everybody had to be in sock feet. Water balloon relays, all kinds of different things like that. So, and we'll give you some resources, again, as I said, on our and the class on the resources folder, there's some examples of some of these activities that you can maybe copy some of the games. So water activities is canoe trips. You have water activities on your property. Then you can have lake activities. If you have a lake nearby, you can do different types of things on the lake. We've done things because we have a lake here on our property where we've done our own boats, and we've done different. We've looked and researched. Our guys have sat down and we've gone through some of those. If you have the availability, as far as another type of water activity is a pool activity, and so you can do pool activity, and there's all kinds of different things you can do with diving contest, walking the plank, all kinds of different activities in a pool. And so with outdoor activities, we said there's camping, there's water activities, and then you can do with outdoor activities what I term sporting events. Sporting events. Okay, one thing that we do in our college, and you could do this then with teenagers, is do a World Series. And so we split up into teams, and in the college we make our own t-shirts, and so they're divided into teams. Then they have a World Series, and so it's a competition with either baseball, softball, and there's different types of ways to do that. Another thing that you can do with sporting events, we've done Olympics, outdoor Olympics, and with that, we've done, and I'll give you a list of some of the events. We've done 100-yard dashes, 100-yard hurdles, 400-meter relays. We did a triathlon with biking, running, and then instead of the swimming, we did canoeing. We did softball throws instead of the weighted ball. We just used a softball, frisbee throw, long jump, high jump. We did hockey and hand soccer, and then we actually had a rifle range, but we used BB guns. In this day and age, you could also use paintball guns. You could make up your own rifle range. And so there's on sporting events, a World Series, you could do Olympics, and you can have all kinds of different things along that end. Okay, so as far as types of activities, then we're going through some of the types of activities. So we said that there's outdoor activities. So let's give you a couple other types of activities. We said there's outdoor activities, there's sporting events. So the third type of activity is scavenger hunts. Scavenger hunts. Now scavenger hunts, let me give you a little bit of explanation on a scavenger. A scavenger hunt is something where you're going to have the teens come in, you're going to split up the teens into teams, and it might be, depending on the size, you're going to have maybe 3 or 4 per team, and but you could have even more if it's a larger youth group. But you're having these guys come in, and you give usually the teens a list of items to find. Usually you're going to line up drivers ahead of time. Maybe it's parents that'll come in. Maybe you have a couple extra workers. So let's take a youth group of 15 people, and so or 16 people, and you make 4 teams of 4 people. Okay, and so you split them up. Then there's different types of scavenger hunts you can do, and we're going to talk about those in just a moment. But let me explain that when you do a scavenger hunt for a youth pastor, this is going to be probably one of the activities that you're not going to spend a lot of time with the teens. The teenagers do love them and they do enjoy them, but just remember, one of our purposes is spending time. So remember that and scheduling your year out. If you're doing scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt, more than likely you're not going to be spending as much time with the young people. Sometimes it's a time that is very busy as a youth pastor. You got If you're a youth pastor, you're probably an assistant doing other things in the church. Maybe schedule a scavenger hunt when there's a lot of other things going on. Maybe it's, you know, you have something to do with a school and you have plays that are going on, or you're involved in sports, or you're involved in other things. Well, a scavenger hunt can then be an activity. It's not going to take tons of prep time, but just remember that if you do scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt through the course of a year, then you're not necessarily spending the time you should with the young people. So I throw that out there as a caution that it is fun and the teens like it, but just remember one of the purposes is spending time. So keep that in mind when you're scheduling things in your church calendar. So let's go through a couple of the scavenger hunts, different types. Okay, there's one called a cassette party. In this day and age, you may, then it wouldn't be, you know, a cassette party. It might be, it's a recording device. Okay, some type of recording device. You can, and there's a couple of different ways to do this. And you know, a cassette party, you could also do this in a video setting, especially with phones nowadays. But just remember that you want that material coming off of their phone or their video, and then you have to judge those things. So let me give you the idea of this cassette party, a sound scavenger hunt. The sound scavenger hunt, and they can do this on a phone then, you make a list of sounds. And again, in our resource folder, you're going to see a list of these things. I'll give you a few. A dog barking, a baby crying, someone playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, someone coughing, a cash register opening and closing, someone over the age of 55 explaining what the word macho means, a ping pong ball bouncing on a table for 10 seconds, a phone ringing 10 times in a row without anyone answering, someone blowing up a balloon until it pops. Now, you can do these as just sound recordings, okay, and that's pretty easy, especially on phones nowadays, or you could have other devices to record this. Okay, so you have these sounds, or in the same way, you can combine or expand this, and you can have this in a video setting. So you have videos, and you want these videos recorded, and you could also have, like a lot of times when we would do a sound scavenger hunt, we would have a mystery sound. And the mystery sound is at the end of everything, you do a mystery sound that your team comes up with. You do not reveal this. And then either the judges or the other teams you have to play the sound, and the other teams have to guess at it. If they guess at it, then you don't get the points. But if you stump all the other people, then it is you get a bonus. So there's different things you can do with a sound scavenger hunt. Another type of scavenger hunt is called a signature scavenger hunt. The signature is that you're going to give the teens a list of signatures of various people in their community. And they then have to go out, and there's different value of points. Again, this will be in the resource, just kind of a sample of a sheet that we would give out. And I'll give you some of the categories. A gas station attendant, a doctor at a hospital, a mall security guard, an insurance salesman on duty, a football player, a bowling league team, a fast food attendant, a bride or groom that has been married 6 months or less. And so here on these scavenger hunts, you have a few of these. So you have a sound or like a video type. You have a signature. Another type of scavenger hunt is called a bigger and better. You start each team out with a penny, and they have to go and they have to trade up. And what this means is, like if I have a penny, I'm going to a house and I say, hey, I'm on a scavenger hunt from our youth group and I have a penny. Do you have something more valuable than a penny? And I'll exchange it with you. Well, they keep the penny and then you get something. And they cannot go to the same person or the same house again. And so they're making their way around, and you give them so much time, and then they're coming back and they're trying to get the most valuable item or the biggest item. And I always had to make rules with this, because if they brought it in, they were taking it out. When I was a teenager in my youth group growing up, I did a bigger and better. And I remember our group, we traded up enough to where we had an upright piano. And our youth pastor, that was his rule. We had to bring it in, but that upright piano we had to somehow figure out. We had to get a truck, we loaded it on, brought it in, but then we had to get it out of the church. That was our job. Here at our church, I remember one youth group, they brought in it was a fake fireplace, but it had a stereo in it, and it was a big console, and it was actually nice enough that we put it somewhere. But the rule was that if you bring that in, you have to take it out. Okay, so that's bigger and better. There's also scavenger hunts with food items, and so you can do this with a sub sandwich. You can do this with a pizza, and you'd say, well, how do you do that? Well, again, we'll have a sample in that resource folder of things that we did, but let me give you an example of a sub. So the submarine, we would give them maybe a 6-foot submarine bun, all right, the roll, the sub roll. All right, so, and you can buy 3-foot, you can buy 6-foot ones, and so you buy one of those, and then they would have to go out to houses, and they'd have to fill their sub up, and then we had values of points. And the thing is, and we would tell them this, you're trying to build this, but it has to be edible, because they're going to eat it at the end of the night. And it's the same with a pizza. We called it Sub Quest, then we had Pizza Hunt. And so, again, there's different types of these. We had one scavenger hunt that we called Superhero. And the Superhero scavenger hunt, they had to make a superhero. And again, some of these are on the resources. We did one called The Ultimate. And The Ultimate was where we combined a bunch. We combined sound, video, signature. We had riddles, and there's something called a superlative, where it's the biggest food item, the largest leaf, the biggest shoe, the prettiest picture. So there's different ways to do those things. So in regards to these type of things, you have a lot of different types of scavenger hunts to do. Another couple of ideas to do as far as fun activities. What type of activities? So we've covered some outdoor activities. We've covered water activities. We cover sporting events, scavenger hunts. You can do bike hikes. It's really simple. That one time we did a progressive bike hike where we biked to different people in our church, different homes, and then we would have an appetizer, we'd have a snack, and we'd bike to different places. So bike hikes are good. You can have gym nights, and we have some resources on the gym nights. I think the gym nights can be a lot of fun, because it helps you be creative. You theme something together. Maybe it's we have some called the Hillbilly Hoedown. We've had medieval activities. We've had a lot of different types. You can have Jello nights. You can have all balloons. So a lot of things like that that help you out. So let me then just close with giving you some resources. Okay, so we're talking about fun activities. We talked about the purposes. We talked about some of the types of fun activities. Well, what are some resources? Well, let me give you a few. There's a a couple of websites that you can go onto, and we'll try to have those in our resource folder also. Youthspecialties.com has some resources. Youthspecialties.com. Group.com, Group, group.com. Positiveaction.org, positiveaction.org. That's Positive Action for Christ. Proteins, they have some resources. Then a couple others. There's the youthpastor.com, youthpastor.com. Great Group Games, greatgroupgames.com, and Funattic, Funattic.com. All of these can be a help to you then in giving you resources. If now, because of the online capabilities, there's a lot of things online that you would be able to use to help put together some fun times for your young people. Hopefully this is helpful then as you then try to develop, and I would recommend building your own resources, whether it's in a file system on your computer or your own books, collecting some. There are a lot of resources out there, and you want to try to collect those so that it helps stimulate your brain in developing fun activities for your youth group.